All right, we're live. Welcome to paraglidingduck.com. Todd Scandrett's eyes watching you. So glad that you're here tonight. We have a great show lined up. Butch Knight is with us, paramotor pilot, a 17-year veteran, skydive. I want to say pilot. I guess you're still a pilot if you're jumping out and flying a wing down to the ground. Skydiver. He's got all kinds of experience under the canopy. Has a great attitude for the sports. Been flying for some years now with paramotor. Had some recent events that we're going to talk about. We've got Resurgence PPG in the house. Also, paramotor crazies with us. David, he's joined us. So appreciate him. He hosts the show, the Paramotor Nation, on Sunday nights. If you haven't caught up with them yet, they're at 8:30 Eastern. I believe
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. Oh, it is 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock Eastern time. That took all my brain cells to do the math while I was talking. And also Sean. Sean's with us. Sean is no stranger to the show. Been a moderator and the giveaway master. He is an expert at giving away other people's stuff, and he's really good. He's really good at it. We're going to give away a bunch of stuff tonight. I'm pretty excited. This show is brought to you by Resurgence PPG. If you haven't been a part of Resurgence mission, you need to jump on board. I'm going to do a quick little screen share here for you guys. Screen share. Boom. Share. There we go. Resurgence PPG. Todd Scandrett created Resurgence PPG, and this was to help out our veterans to get their feet off the ground in paramotoring, free flight paragliding. He is a 501c3, so if you'd like to donate and support the cause, it's tax-free. Go to resurgenceppg.com. The show's also brought to you by flymyppg.com. If you're anywhere in the Michigan area and you're interested in powered paragliding, reach out to Mike Cotter, the guys at flymyppg.com. Show's also brought to you by paraorangeproducts.com. Paraorange products for parapilots by parapilots. Go to paraorangeproducts.com for all your paragliding needs. Show's brought to you by iFly Indiana. iFly Indiana is a powered paragliding organization, school, training facility. These guys are great. No better place to get the proper training than iFlyIndiana.com. Kevin and his team, get your feet off the ground. Check out iFlyIndiana.com. Show's also brought to you by Tri-State Skywalkers. Tri-State Skywalkers is, if you're anywhere in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, reach out to Brandon McCloud on Facebook. There's a link in the description. Tri-State Skywalkers Flying Club aims to help out the locals' friendship organization. If you're interested in starting a local club, reach out to Brandon. Show's also brought to you by PPGsmoke.com. Ryan Roberts is a new innovator of all kinds of paramotoring things. There's a fresh link in the description that you need to follow. He put a video just saying thanks to everybody who bought some stuff. So pretty grateful for his investment. He gave away 52 of these items for people, and so if you want to get on the contest list, go to paraglidingduck.com and /contest and put your information in there, and we'll give you away something. Also, if you're in the chat right now and you're watching live and you haven't said anything in the chat, unlike Woody Gamertag, who doesn't stop talking ever, if you haven't said anything, you should say something, because Sean's writing your name down so we can give you away some stuff. Larry from paraorangeproducts.com wants to give away a t-shirt tonight, and also want to have him want to keep him in your prayers. Speedy recovery for him. He had an accident. He's kind of hurting. He's laid up. He's doing much better, but he still needs some recovery. So shoot some prayers up for him, and appreciate what he does for the show. Show's also brought to you by Paramotor Tools LLC. Check them out. You need to buy some stuff from these guys. If you're interested in advertising with us, check out the sponsor page. All right. Without further delay, Butch, you've got a pretty good track record as far as skydiving. 17 years skydiving, and you're still in one piece. How did you end up getting into paramotoring and paragliding?
Well, I'm actually the skydiving ended because I got tired of driving 2.5 hours one way to the drop zone, and got married, kids, and everything, all the typical stuff. Um, there was a big gap between the skydiving and picking up the paramotor, and I actually swung the other direction and started fly fishing, and actually calmed my life down quite a bit after skydiving. But I took I drag raced professionally for 12 years, and I got into motocross racing for a year and broke 5 bones in a year, and said that was enough of that. But I took one of my motorcycles to a friend that I used to drag race with to get it serviced, and he said, he asked me, he said, "Have you seen your crazy cousin Will lately?" And I said no, and he took his phone out and showed me a video of him flying a paramotor. I was like, "Man, what is that?" And he told me, and I was like, I got to do that." And so I got online immediately that night, and I drank the super Kool-Aid. I called up Superdale and ordered the flat top and the Dominator. And the first time I went for training, I was 3.5 hours away, and took about 3.5 hours of training. And the guy was I'm not going to mention his name, but most of you know him. He's in the back of my ear just screaming at me the whole time on the airfield, and I'm stepping in these fire ants, and it's 95 degrees, and he's screaming in my ear, "Get on the wing, go left, go right," all that stuff. So after that trip, I gave him a couple of grand and basically bought him a towing machine. So I left there, and I was like, "Man, I can't do this." So I come home and pretty much self-taught the rest of it. So my cousin, I called him one day after I'd been kiting a couple of months, and I said, "Man, I'd like for you to fly my gear." I'm just sitting here staring at it, brand new gear, and all I can do is crank it and listen to it. So we go out in this cow pasture, and he takes my flat top and my Dominator up, and my flat top in his wing. He had a 28-meter wing. He's pretty good sized boy, and so he takes off, flies a few minutes, comes in, and this guy is a nut. I mean, he lives life literally on the edge every day, and love him to death. But he lives life to the fullest. And he comes in, and he's just so excited. He's rubbed his hands together. He's like, man, I think you're ready." I was like, "Ready for what?" He said, I think you're ready to fly, man." He said, "You already know how to land." And I said, "Man, are you for real?" And he said, "Yeah." So 5 launch attempts later, I came off the ground, and of course was paying no attention to his canopy size. I soaking wet, weighed 160 pounds at that time. So I got a 28-meter wing over my head, and I learned from skydiving. I looked down immediately, and I had no forward penetration. Matter of fact, I'm backing up, and I'm like, well, after I got up to about 1,000 feet, I'm like, well, I'm not going to land back here. So I went up to 7,500 feet and just played around a while, and I landed 21 or 2 miles away at a golf course, and how the rest is history. I was hooked, and fly just about every day. In the first probably 900, 1,000 flights, I flew just about every day for an hour and a half to 2 hours or more. and I've flown in the rain, sleet, snow, everything but hell. but and I want to preface this interview before we go any further. I don't do social media. I don't have Facebook. I don't have Snapchat. This is my first rodeo here, so you guys bear with me. I really wanted to come on here just to go over a couple of things that's happened to me in the last couple of months. Actually, I'm respectfully 1,900 hours in this sport. If I'm going to say well over 2,000, and I bought a warp 18 meter about 3 months ago. I demoed one from Brian Shaw and just absolutely fell in love with it. I was listening to Rip Man on the other night, and I was like, man, that wing is so sweet. And so I was on my second break-in flight on a new paramotor, and it was windy, and winds were 14 to 16, but Todd will tell you, I fly any time of the day, any hour of the day, and I'm used to pretty windy conditions. I live in the foothills of North Carolina, so it's something we contend with here all the time. A buttery morning or evening flight is just like a beautiful thing here. But so I go up, and within 20 minutes, the winds go to 18 to 24 and gusting to almost 30. And I'm headed back to the airfield, and I'm like, man, I'm in a mess. So I go to set my wing down at this little strip beside of a restaurant, and I come in over the trees. And when I get to tree level, this has been 2 months ago yesterday. When I get down and my wing is just above tree level, I actually start getting pushed backwards, and I get in the throttle. I'm not in the brakes at all, just enough in the brakes to feel the wing through the brakes. And I get in the throttle, and I'm not getting any forward movement, still getting pushed back. So I go full throttle and still not getting any, and getting pushed back. And then I get a crosswind, and it starts pushing me towards the trees. And I'm like, wow, never had this happen. And so I see this tree, which is right across, this group of trees right across the street, coming up, and I don't have any out. I'm not getting any climb out, nothing. So my wingtip touches the trees, and of course my wing accordions, and I fall 50 some feet, and I landed on my left hip, and I shattered my hip socket, broke my hip bone, broke my L3. And that's why I wanted to do the show. I hear Paragliding, and I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch you guys on YouTube all the time, and Tucker, and just really admire Kyle's admiration for the weather, and that really struck me, because I seen
podcast.
how quick.
Yo, what's up?
Hold on just a second, Butch.
Oh, yeah.
He's muted. I can't hear him.
Yeah, I see the mute on his.
Yeah, he's muted.
So Bush,
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
You got audio?
Can you hear me now?
Special guest we've requested.
Lagging.
Yeah, I can hear him now.
Yeah.
There we go. Check this out.
Oh my word!
Oh, there you go. All right. Hey, checking me. Make sure it's working.
It happens.
People
All right,
starting to land now, huh?
Sorry to interrupt. Just, wanted to show you guys what we're dealing with here.
What just happened?
I'll be back.
That's pretty amazing. Well, we can officially say that we had Super Dell on the show. Sorry, Butch. So Butch, so you get to the place where you're full throttle, you're not going forward. What's going through your mind? And is there anything looking back that you could have done differently to avoid going into the trees and taking a hard fall?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, of course, hindsight's always 2020, but as I'm very embarrassed to say this, but this is all about education as far as I'm concerned. These chats and videos, and that's why I'm wanting to do this episode. Is first of all, I should have never went up. I've went up in those winds before, but I got a full dose of how quick conditions can change just without warning. The forecast was not calling for anything like that, and I actually had that a milder case of that happen a couple of nights ago with a buddy of mine with a trike that had to. I made it onto the airfield. He was a half a mile behind me, and 50 flight. This was his 50th flight, and he'd had a bad crash 3 years ago and almost paralyzed him. And so he landed at a golf course a mile away from the airfield we were flying from 2 nights ago. And it's the same thing. I called him on his phone to make sure he was okay and told him I was on the way to pick him up. And he's like, man, where in the heck did that come from? And same thing with this. You just don't never know. And I should have stayed on the ground first of all, but I felt comfortable going up in the conditions that were going on at the time of launch, but they just rapidly got out of hand. And now as far as being in that situation, I know this may sound crazy, but my only thought would have been, if I'm not getting any lift and I'm getting pushed towards the trees, I should have turned into the trees and at least got my wing, the nose of my wing across some trees to try to hang from, and hopefully get my wing hung up in the trees instead of my wingtip touching the trees and just accordion, smashing my wing, and where I just dropped down, immediately dropped. Kind of a free fall type drop. I didn't have any resistance at all. So if I had it to do over again, when I seen that, hey, I'm going to hit the trees, I would have turned into the trees and done a PLF in my harness and just took what I got. But it just all happened so fast. I mean, just one of those things where you like, well, this is getting ready to happen. Oh crap, and there it is seconds later. But that's the only thing I would have done different was I would have turned into the trees and tried to hang my wing up in the trees. Because when I came down, I fell straight down because my kite was folded up. It just folded it up flat. So, but the thing that really blows me away, and most of the people around here I've talked to, my doctors and flying folks and all, is a little less than 6 weeks later, I got 2 stainless steel straps in my left hip and 8 stainless steel screws, and less than 6 weeks later, I'm back in the air, and I just have a passion for this sport, and I got heavy on the physical therapy, and a lot of people, I'm sure, would say I shouldn't be flying. My whole family tells me that, and friends, I hear it all the time. But you guys know what it's like to fly, and what it's like when you don't get to fly for a while. So my next stop was counseling, so I had to get back in the air. Yeah.
So you had there was a series of bad decisions, obviously, and I mean, launching in what was going through your head before that flight? Was it, you think it was overconfidence? You think it was something that you could have said, you know what, let's dig deeper into the weather? Or was it just like a normal everyday type of situation that storm just came, or that front came through real quick?
Well, yeah, the front came in crazy quick, but the conditions when I was getting ready to launch, I was getting ready to do a second break-in flight on a new paramotor, and I'm like, well, I told myself that I'm only going to be up there 30 minutes, so I'm going to go for it and get this break-in behind me, and be done for the day. And I'm standing out there. I have access to this private airfield, and it's out in the middle of nowhere, and it's a beautiful place. It's quiet. So I'm standing there, and I can hear the wind whipping in the trees, and I can hear it changing directions, and I'm watching the monkey in the tree deal, and they're all over the place. The trees are just everywhere. So I did have hesitation warming my engine back up when I was getting ready to hook up. I'm like, Butch, this is not the best conditions in the world, but I just kept telling myself that I'm only going to be up 30 minutes and then I'll be back down. Now I can land in this, I can launch in this, no problem. And I left, and my ground speed, when I checked my flight recorder, was 51 miles an hour headed downwind when I was flying away from the airfield. And when I turned to come back 20 minutes later, that's when I hit the wall and then started getting pushed back. So yeah, the only excuse I have for flying, Robert, was just wanting to do it. I was just it's just stupidity. I just wanted to get that break-in flight in, and I wasn't using my head as an experienced pilot. I should have just packed it up and said, well, you're probably going to fly tomorrow, so no big deal. But I pushed it. I pushed the envelope too much, and I paid dearly for it. And
So this just happened a couple months ago.
Right.
Now, let me just bring the balance here. You might get away with this 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
And one thing that really stuck with me, my instructor, when I went up to up north from us in Southern California, Stephen Nowak made a statement about, you might be 99% good on everything that you do, but when that 1% bites you, sometimes it's your life.
Right.
And I'm paraphrasing what he said. He says it much better, but it's a fact that we do things on a regular basis. If it is a habit that is bad, and we go through our like, for example, pre-check, we go through our pre-check and we have a bad habit. Like, I have this bad habit of not looping that last little deal for my pod harness. And finally it bit me in air. It caused, I had a launch. I had to do it quickly. It was just going to be a sled ride. I knew that, but it was a gnarly hike to the top of the mountain. I was not having, there was going to be no hiking back down. I had to bushwhack to get up to the top. The path was super overgrown. It was not a cool place to fly. It's dangerous there. Not a whole lot of landing options. And as soon as I launched, I realized that the line that normally closes my pod harness was all tangled up. And so my feet were all crinkled up inside the thing. And I had to do the whole flight basically like that. And it was affecting my weight shifting. It was affecting everything. So it ruined my flight. And it was already a frustrating flight. So frustrating. I didn't even record it. I didn't even put a video together on it. I should have. But nevertheless, you might get away with it 9 times out of 10. So somebody, you may have been fine that day, and people just said, oh yeah, see, Butch, he's a hero, man, that guy's a champ, nothing phases him. But the fact of the matter is, every time we go out, we take a gamble when we so I want to talk real quick about weather, and I know that was something that you wanted to discuss. Where are you looking, and what would you have seen that would have stopped you had you noticed it when you checked the weather?
Well, I did check the weather. I of course do every time, and that was the thing, is it wasn't, the winds were actually calling to pick up a little bit, but not to that extreme. And there's several weather apps I use like everybody else, but I basically go off of windy and wind comp, and then the local weather stations here. And I can't remember if it was Kyle or somebody told me last summer that this summer there's like every, I don't know if there's anything to this or not, but every 7 years or so many years, there's some kind of weird wind front that comes up through the Gulf, that comes right up through here, and that's I don't know again if there's anything to that, but that's been crossed my mind 100 times in the last couple of months, because we've had some really crazy winds here over the last few months that typically by this time of year they've calmed down, at least in the morning and the evenings. But yeah, if I was going to do anything different, I would have just chose to stay on the ground and not even went up. I just felt very comfortable in the winds at launch, and like you said, I wanted to comment on something you just said, Robert, the training thing. If there's any new guys out there listening, I watched Woody down at the Bad Apples. I sat there for I don't know how long and watched that guy go up to what I'd say is probably 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 feet, and I was just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Acrobatic wise, Crazy Carl taught me how to, do barrel rolls, wing overs, and things like that. But that's the first time I'd seen Woody fly in person, and he was up there just doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I'm like, man, I want to do a SIB course like right now because of watching him. I'm like, the guy's got control over his equipment, and being self-taught. A lot of people are doing that. If you ask me, Dale was trying to get me to come down to I think it was Texas at the time, to train for like 12 to 14 days. And my big excuse was to him, we were on the phone for hours at different times. And my big excuse was, Dale, I can't leave my business for 12 to 14 days. I can't walk away from my business for that long. And now I have bought and sold probably 25 paramotors in the last 3 years, and now I've had some pretty gnarly crashes and tore up 5 or 10 of them, but the majority of them I usually put 10 to 20, at the most 50 hours on one, and I'll have a new guy coming into the sport in our region, and my name's kind of out there that you can get a deal on one from Butch, and then I turn around and buy a new one. So I'm kind of keeping myself in a new paramotor and get somebody else in the sport at a discount price kind of thing. But just watching Woody and watching some of these guys at Bad Apples was really educational for me, and on all kinds of levels, experience-wise, weather-wise. And I would recommend anybody getting in the sport to definitely take the time off and take a training, because it cost me a lot. I'm ashamed to say this. I probably got over $100,000 tied up in this sport in the last 3 years, just buying paramotors and crashing them and tearing them up, and when I could have spent 14 days and learned how to control my wing and how to handle situations like I've seen Woody purposely put himself in and just like a master come out of it. So it's it's a live and learn thing, and we all know in this sport when you leave the ground, you're putting yourself at great risk, and on the best day, anything can happen. But if I had any advice for anybody, it'd be to listen to the guys that have the time in the saddle, and listen to what they say and watch what they do. And,
But I jumped on because I had so many questions about your accident. You were explaining that the wing tangled up and you went down and the wing didn't reinflate. How did it happen? Did you just get a giant asymmetric deflation because of the weather? I'm confused.
Yeah, thanks, Woody. I enjoyed meeting you at Bad Apples, by the way.
Likewise.
I was actually downwind the majority of the flight, and when the winds started picking up, and I could tell, hey man, I need to get back to the airfield, and I'm going to be fighting a headwind. Then the winds were out of the northeast. I turned into the wind, northeast into the wind, and I was over a field just about 100 yards ahead of some trees, and I had planned on landing in that field because the winds were just really getting gnarly. So I was coming down, and I was getting tossed around so much. I'm like, I'm going to climb out and try to make it back. So I get in the throttle, and I'm not getting any lift. I'm actually getting pushed backwards.
You think you were in some sort of like rotor ridge lift kind of turbulence, yucky whitewater situation from the trees in the field, that elevation change?
I do, because I was literally about 3/4 of a mile from the foothills of a mountain. And of all these flights and hours, I have never experienced this before. Got in the throttle, no lift, and then when I started backing up, I went full throttle and was still not getting any lift and still getting pushed back. And then I had a crosswind come out of nowhere and start pushing me over towards the trees. And soon as I touched that, my wingtip touched that tree, my wing just
Stop being a wing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And the only thing I could have done is to actually turn downwind and crashed into the trees. And that would have, I think, looking back, would have been a whole lot better off just taking a frontal hit of my body to the trees and getting my wing. At least I would have got my wingspan hung up in the trees.
Yeah.
So, do you want to go, Robert?
I was going to say that that's something that we talk about in free flight piloting quite a bit, because sometimes you end up in situations where you're going to be in a tree, and we'll say, hug a tree, pick a tree and hug it, and the soft one preferably.
So you were coming in, you didn't like the weather, you decided to land out, right? You're like, screw this, I'm going to land out, just get on the ground because I don't want to be in the air. Do you think that field that you picked was too small to be safe, and that's why?
I've landed in that field numerous times. There's a little restaurant there, and I've landed there and launched there many times. And go in and get a bite, a burger or something, and take off and launch there. No, I think that, and that this is a big reason I've done this show. Wanted to do the show. I have never experienced wind. There's rotor and thermals all around here where I live. I live about an hour and a half northwest of you, Woody, about 30 miles north of Greensboro. I'm 15 miles from the Virginia line and right at the base of the mountains. And so any winds north or south are creating rotor around us here all the time. But we're used to, there's a couple of us pilots that fly here that have gotten used to that, and it's just a part of flying in this region. But this, when those winds went to 24 and gust into 30 within 20 minutes, it's just like it came out of nowhere. And
hey, Ron,
did you say you were on a dudek warp?
Yeah, 18. Yeah. Wait,
that's a new wing, so it must be somewhat new to you.
Well, I'd had 10 flights, 15 flights on a demo from Ryan Shaw on the same wing, and 6 flights on this wing, and then this one is the 7th one was one that the accident happened on.
Hey, Ron, what do you got going on back there? I see you chiming in.
Yeah. Just lurking. Not much, not much else going on here.
Where are you guys at? Tell everybody where you're at and what you're up to.
We were trying to get Chris Santa Croce on here.
Oh yeah, get him.
He told me no.
He's
Where is he?
He's a good guy, yeah. But
You know why? Because paraglidingtalk.com's competition now. Go grab him.
Yeah, we'll see if we can go grab him. He's helping someone out right now.
Yeah, last I heard, he's kind of weak. You could just grab him in a headlock. Grab him, Parker.
Grab him, Parker. Go get him, man.
He's dodging me because I sent him like 15 emails.
Hey, I want Robert.
Yeah.
I see a guy chiming in here, PPG flyer, self-taught on a competition wing. I actually learned how to fly on the Dominator, if that gives me any credit at all. But
Did you say you were a 1,900-hour pilot?
yes, well, actually over 2,000 hours.
Yeah. So he was self-taught, but not this year. This is not his first wing.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And Woody, that's the thing that, again, that's the big reason I wanted to come on this episode and discuss this topic is I was hoping that a lot of the younger guys and newer guys in the sport, I want them to see that man, I don't care how good you are, how many hours you got in, how many flights you got in, whatever, you can be the best pilot in the world and conditions can change within minutes and get you in a gnarly situation. And again, I watched you go up, Woody, and just do some crazy.
That was smooth air.
Well, I understand that, but you know, when you get comfortable with your wing and you feel one with your machine and one with your wing, that helps a lot when you get in situations like that. And it happened so fast. Of course, I wish I had a do-over, and I should have never went up. But if I had a do-over, I wish I would have just turned into. But you know, I just ask you to think about this: when you're flying 51 miles an hour downwind, and you have that few seconds to actually ponder turning downwind. You know, who wants to turn downwind with that kind of ground speed and just crash into the trees? I mean, that didn't even enter my mind, to be honest with you. I was just wondering, why am I not getting any lift? Why am I not getting any forward movement? Why am I flying backwards? And now why am I going sideways? It just all happened within 15 to 20 seconds, you know.
So how bad was the injury? What'd you get?
I broke my hip bone, shattered my hip socket, and broke my L3. I've got 2 stainless steel straps in my hip and 8 stainless steel screws.
How long ago was this?
2 months ago yesterday.
How are you now?
He already flew.
I've got 25 flights in. I flew 6 weeks. 6 weeks after.
He's
my
not
surgery.
supposed to be flying.
No.
I already talked to his doctor too. He's watching, by the way.
How are you walking? Like how are other things? How are stairs? How's a ladder?
Everything is great. The only time it bothers me is down at Bad Apples, just walking back and forth from Todd's tent up to where I was on the other end of the field. Walking out all day, that kind of got to me when I got to the hotel at night. My hip would be burning a little bit. And when I come in, I flew my warp yesterday for the first time. I've got a 20 and a 22 Hadron, and I'm launching and landing those no problem. But the warp, I launched it yesterday, had a really nice flight, and then when I come in to land, it was just a little bit too hot for me right now. My hip's not ready for that. But
which motor are you on?
I've got a Parajet Maverick with the 185 motor and a RS power fly with the 185.
Right. So it's.
Butch, are you doing only foot launching, or have you even started considering doing trike with the way your leg is?
Well, Funny you said that. I've got a trike down in my shop here behind the house, but I've yet to learn to launch it. That was one of my goals this summer was to learn how to trike. But I love the foot launch. I just love the,
Question for Wolverine over there. You said you were in therapy. Is it physical therapy? I almost got the idea there was a mental therapy component in this. What are we doing?
Who are you asking?
You, Wolverine.
Oh. Well,
He was like,
I was telling Robert earlier that, I went to my PT guy about a month in, and he's like, "How you doing with the crutches?" And a friend that went with me said, "Well, you telling the truth?" And I said, "Well," and they said, "He's not using his crutches." And he said, "Man, you've got to stay off that hip for another 6 to 8 weeks." And I own a business, man, and I can't sit around and crutches was wearing my armpits out. And but anyway, so I was telling Robert that I was sitting at home one day in a bed about 5.5 weeks in, and I was like, "Man, I think I can launch, and I need to get in the air." And so it was that or get some therapy. So I chose the airfield, and man, when I come off the ground, the first thing out of my mouth was "Thank you, Lord." And by the way, I don't know where any of you guys are there, but I've got to say this: I'm sitting here talking to you by the grace of God. I've been a born again Christian since I was 30 years old, and I know that I'm here because the Lord had His hands on me. And I've been in a lot of different crashes in my life, and drag racing, bikes, flying and stuff, but this one really got my attention. And again, the reason why I wanted to do this show is you can think that you got this. I don't care what your skill level is with anything. You can think I got this, but just like Robert said, with the 99%, it can bite you, and it bit me. And now people around here that know me, Todd Scandrick knows, I'll fly any time of day. I don't care what the temperature is. I don't care if the winds are. I go up and fly, and never had any problems. But now I have calmed down immensely and have the greatest respect for weather conditions. I had them before, but I thought, well, I've flown in this hundreds of times. I'm not going to. If it worst case scenario, my thing was always, I'll land off somewhere, if I have to, and call my brother and tell him to come pick me up. I've done it many times. So that was my philosophy. Now I look at if I see monkeys in the trees around me now here at the house, I got windsocks everywhere on my land here, and if I see things changing and whipping and stuff, I just like, hey, we'll just try it another day.
I'm taking that, by the way. If I see monkeys in the trees, I like that.
Yeah.
Those dang tree shakers.
Yes, sir. That's not a good thing.
Well, I also want to make sure that we put the blame where blame is due for your for the pain. That was Todd, because he put his tent so far away. Had he not put his tent so far away, I think your hip would have probably been much better by now.
I think I got home and ordered an electric skateboard. Jesus, Todd.
Come on, Todd.
And there were so many one-wheelers over at that field, but you should have jumped on a one-wheeler. I mean, you could have rented one. There was more one-wheelers at that thing than there were paramotors.
Oh, my God. I'm not trying to hog the mic, but I got to say this. So I'm over at my tent and under the canopy, and Crazy Carl comes over and we're talking. And the buddy that I rode down with, we're playing with our paramotors, and Carl and I are talking. Hadn't seen him since Vail, the fly what you got it. And so we were talking, and he pulls up on a one-wheeler. We're talking, and I step back few minutes later and tripped over the thing and reached out and grabbed my buddy's paramotor cage to kind of cushion my fall. And as soon as I set my butt down on the ground, I thought, I have driven 8.5 hours down here hoping that I'm going to get to fly, and I'm going to bust my tail up on a stinking one-wheeler. And I wasn't even trying to ride it. I tripped over it, and Carl's, if you guys know Carl, of course, he's picking at me about it. He's like, man, you come all the way down here and you're gonna bust yourself up on my one-wheeler. And I'm like, I didn't know it was there. But anyway, yeah, you're right. I've never seen so many of those things in one place. And they're pretty cool. But.
We need to give some stuff away. We're past the half-hour mark. I got 2 things we're going to give away. One of these T-shirts. We're going to give away that first, and then we're going to give away a Tow Pro because you need one. Johnny Wisconsin sent me a whole batch of them. These are the. This is a nice one too. This is the black paragliding. This looks like a free flight. Yeah, that's a free flight guy. Look at that.
Nice.
I might have to keep that one.
Well, I got your name in there, so it's a fair shake.
All right, good.
All right, tell me when.
Pull that first one.
First one. Look at this.
Ryan Roberts.
What?
Ryan Roberts, congratulations.
He was in the chat?
He was in the chat. He was in there.
I sent him an invite.
He had typed a couple. Ryan Roberts, congratulations. Even though you created it, you have won a shirt. Was that the shirt?
Yeah, that's the orange shirt.
That's the orange shirt. So Ryan Roberts, congratulations. Your smoke machines are awesome, by the way. You deserve to win.
Yeah, I put a link, by the way. He made a nice little video talking about his store and stuff, and it's in his garage. And it's pretty awesome.
And Kubat saying this is rigged. Come on, I pulled your name out of there one time too there, Kubat.
What wasn't Kubat the one that won while he was on the show? Or was that somebody else?
No, that was Matt Minyard.
Oh, Matt Minyard, that's right.
Yeah, Matt Minyard got it. But I got Kubat in there too. So you ready?
Here we go for the Tow Pro.
All right. Ready?
Please leave me the gamer tag.
Darren Locklear.
Oh, yes!
Oh, yeah.
Darren, congratulations.
Congratulations, Darren Locklear.
Down.
Awesome. That's the guy I went down with, and he won a T-shirt there, a Resurgence T-shirt too, to drawing it in. That's cool.
What is it? Last name Locklear? What is it? L-O-C.
Locklear.
Yeah.
Like Heather Locklear,
Yeah.
You know that name? TV.
Woody.
All that stuff.
Distant cousin.
What do you have to pay to the Patreon? My wife came in here literally. That's why I had to close it off. I didn't even hear it. And my wife busted in the door.
Himself.
Oh, thanks for mentioning that.
Wait.
We're taking away his tool status.
Hey guys, I want to
Sorry, I've muted Robert Michaels. I'm running this stuff now.
Shenanigans.
I can do that.
Hey guys, I want to say one thing. I know we're getting short. Woody and Todd and Robert, David, I don't know you guys personally, but I just want to thank you for coming on this episode and chiming in and giving your expertise and thank you for the opportunity for me to share my story. And I hope it's helped some people. And I've learned a lot. I like being asked questions too, like from you, Robert and Woody. I respect you guys immensely and great asset to the sport. And I just want to thank all of you and thank all the people that come in on the chat. I haven't had a chance to look at that yet, but this is my first rodeo here. I don't do social media and none of that stuff, as you can tell here. I'm just an old school guy, but I appreciate y'all's time and input. I really do.
Now I got a question for you.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple questions that we want to get to. We got about 5 more minutes left.
Butch, do you fly with a reserve now?
I haven't since I've been back flying, but I typically fly low. I'm a low flyer, and the only time matter of fact, the only time I went up high since my accident was at Bad Apples. I went up to 3,000 feet, done a couple of barrel rolls. I know Woody's going to be laughing at this, but just went up and done some wing overs and barrel rolls. But I fly low enough to where I wouldn't have time to get a reserve out if I had an engine out or something. I just have to take a tree landing or something. But this summer I plan on. I want to try. I've been to 13.3. I've been wanting to go to 15,000. And so I'll hook my reserve back up here in the next few days. But typically I fly low.
By the way, that's something I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show. Since it's still May, it's May Day. Here's your reminder to repack, get your reserve repacked. I think Woody flies with 2 now, don't you, Woody? You fly with 2 reserves?
I have 2 motors. The one that I do acro stuff on, I fly with 2 reserves.
Yeah, so
the other is 1. I always fly with a reserve.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to have reserve. I know they're not necessarily comfortable, and they're not necessarily popular, but I think it's critical that and at some point you'll be grateful you had it. It's kind of like a seatbelt.
If I was pulling a Woody, I would carry one, but I don't pull Woodies. I just normal fly. But if I was pulling a Woody, I would totally.
How many times are you going to say pulling a Woody without me cracking jokes?
Well, that's part of the fun.
Me.
It's tormentuous. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really cursing. I'm not saying anything bad, but I call it pulling the Woody. You know, I mean, it's just no different than like pictures and stuff that everybody says. You know, when they're in the air and such.
What was the other question? There was another question somebody had, and I didn't write it down. And it was a good one. Shoot.
Hey, I would just want to say real quick.
15 moderators.
Butch, you know, I really appreciate you being here with all of your experience and telling us about, you know, what you think was an error, but really you probably didn't have time to even react to what was going on around you. But, you know, and kind of a plug, I guess, for the show is I sent a message, I think it was yesterday, to Robert, just saying that I became a Patreon member supporting the show because of this show and Anthony's show and our show on Sunday night. The whole purpose of these shows is to promote safety, and that's what you're here doing, and I really appreciate that. And I think that's what the message that you've said is that's why you're here, is to give everybody a pause, whether you're as inexperienced like me or experienced like Woody. You always got to give pause and think about safety and everything you're doing in the weather conditions. So thank you very much for being here. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking about this ahead of the show. If you look on the website, and I'll screen share for just a second, there's a picture at the top, and it's on the top of every page, and it's the picture of my wing all folded up in a mess. And you've probably seen it, but I'll just show it to you real quick. You probably looked right past it, right there.
I know that video.
That was an incident that could have been avoided had I just stayed on the ground that day. That was big boy flying, and I'm not a big boy pilot. And I shouldn't have been out there, but I wanted to, and I was running and gunning and pushing my limits and hit the wind shear. And the whole show was birthed from that incident. I said, there's got to be a better way. How can we learn from this? I posted a video, quick little green screen video where I overlapped my picture and I talked about, and I shared the video like 3-4 times in a row. And I just talked about what I thought I did wrong after I had talked to my instructor, what he thought I did wrong. And that video somewhere in the archive. But there's always something that you can learn every time you're at a fly-in, every time that you're hanging out, anytime that you show up to the field. And this show is just like steroids for safety. And that's the hope. That's the goal anyways, because this is a leisure sport. None of us have to go flying except for Woody. None of us have to.
Where are we on the SIV here? Because I'm thinking about this, right? We've got a guy on telling his story, and I mean, it really boils down to he took a wing deflation in some really bad air, and it didn't go right.
Hit the tree.
Yeah.
Backwards. Yeah.
You took a wing deflation in some really bad air, but you had some altitude, and you turned out okay.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we on your SIV? What do you think about, like, what is what's the thought process on having not done it yet?
It costs a lot of money.
That's what it is.
Time and money. Yeah, you got to miss a
weekend.
Substantial amount of well, yeah, that's easy to say, but $1,500. You save it. You save yourself. Well, factor in everything.
I'm wondering. Yeah, because for me it's expensive.
Car.
For me it's more than that. So I hear you.
Yeah.
But you would
Not
be
that
able
I'm
to drive
against
there.
it. Yeah, it's 10
and
hours.
Stay in a tent.
Well, you know what, Robert, to Woody, that's been my thought too. It's $1,500, but more than anything, it's the time away. But then you go somewhere like Bad Apples and you see Woody go up and that's after I watched all that, that was on my mind the rest of the weekend. I see guys doing crazy acro down there and stuff but to see a guy go up and have control over a wing like that, I'm like, well, at least if something happens, I want those cat-like skills to be able to respond in some kind of way instead of just looking at the tree coming at me and saying, "Oh crap, what I got to take what I get here," you know. And to see him up there purposefully collapsing that wing and just spiraling down and then just popping out of it and purposely putting himself in all kinds of conditions and predicaments and coming out of it smoothly and masterfully. It's just I went and told my buddy Darren that just one thing I'll come down with. I was like, man, I want to take a SIB course. I never thought anything about it till I watched Woody fly and do those things, and I thought, man, you know, you can't learn too much in this sport, and to see somebody in person do those things, to see it on YouTube is one thing, but to actually watch somebody stand on the ground and watch somebody take a wing out of control and get it back in control, it's pretty cool and very educational. And
I didn't think anyone was watching.
Oh man,
I stopped so high. Like I bet you didn't see me do anything under 1,000 feet.
Oh no, I did, man. I sat there at Todd's tent in the chair, scooted out from under the tent and went to my tent, and I watched everything you did. Every time I saw your wing go up, I sat there and watched you all the way up.
I didn't know.
And he stayed up there quite a while and would come down and then go back up and do this different stuff, come down, go back up. And that's another thing that I respected about Woody, and I never met him, is he wasn't down there trying to show off. He wasn't down there trying to nothing. He matter of fact, one of the things I picked up on him at Todd's tent was he kind of kept to himself, and he's very seems like a very quiet person. I don't know him personally, but when he was flying, he got away from the air, over the airfield, over the cornfields, and just went up and got off to himself safely away from everybody else, and just worked his skills and honed his skills. And I have great respect for that, especially after going through something like this. And that's my last word to anybody out there listening, especially low timers in the sport, is, man, you know, you hear kite, but you know, when you get in the air, you need to know how to handle situations too. And to see somebody in person do that, I'm sold on it. You know, I am going to take a SIB course. What's money in a weekend to your life after you go through something like I just did? So I just appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I think a course is about $900, and then like Robert was saying, you add the rest of it. Robert can drive there and stay at the campsite, so it's not too much more than that for him. But like for Butch and I, we take a flight across the country and rent a car and all that stuff. It really adds up. And usually, I think the ones I do run Friday through Sunday.
All right.
So
where is that, Woody?
So I've done 3 courses under 2 different instructors. But the one I had in my head was Gabe's. He works out of Torrey Pines, but it's in Lake Berryessa in California.
Right. Well,
which one are you going to do, Robert? Have you picked one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Max. Max Marion.
Yeah. He runs the boat with Gabe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Where
if
It's
pro
either
tip,
that or Brad Ganuccio.
another stud. I haven't been to him, but of course I know of him.
If Chris
If you're
Santacroce would answer the phone, I'd go with him.
if you're trying to get Max's attention, work it so that Max tows you, and then he'll be able to watch you better. So
Yeah,
it's fun.
he's invited me a couple times, and I'm sure I could get the bro deal. It's just, again, it's time away from work, and I question, and this is controversial, and we should save this for the after show, but I question how much that I'd be able to get out of it. I was just having this discussion with somebody else.
Okay.
Spend a whole day going up, getting towed up. I'm not a fan of being up over the water. I do it all the time over at Torrey, and I go out over the water and I mess around spirals. Like out last weekend, I was doing the riser twist, turn around and then fly backwards for a while and play around.
Sure.
But when I get really high over the water, I have no sense of altitude change. When I'm at Blossom or when I'm playing around low, you can see where the land's, what your altitude is and what little inputs do to your altitude and making the changes. When you're way up there, it's just when it goes crazy, it's like, okay, I got to figure this out. It's one of those things in my mind where I'm thinking I'm going to go up there, get sick, do a few things that I don't ever want to do ever again, probably. And I said this to somebody, it feels like I'm going to take a car and crash it just to see what it feels like. So that's where I'm coming from.
That's fun. So I have some responses to that. One, like the altitude thing, monitoring your own altitude. That's something I outsourced to Gabe, right? It is his job to tell me if it's reserve time, if I'm high, if I'm low. He helps me select.
No, I'm not concerned about getting low and then having to turn and land or whatever. I'm talking about, I know when I give an input, I know what it does because I could tell what it's doing. If I'm way up there and I'm, let's say, for example, full stall, I don't really know how fast I'm falling. I don't really know what the wing is. It yanking me this way or that way? I've learned so much more low than I ever have up high. As a matter of fact, when I'm up high, I feel like I'm kind of, it's a different world because you've got no reference point.
That's where the safety is, though, right? That's where you want to learn these things.
Sure.
I feel like
being high,
learning wing control,
safe.
Learning how to, pump out an asymmetric collapse, when you go hands up, when you go hands down, that sort of stuff. You don't need to be low and see what impact you have on your altitude to learn that. And some of it is just recognizing which situations are scary or not. I uploaded a video recently. I didn't even have a frontal. I just had slack lines for a moment. And my comment section is freaking the heck out. And, but that's not what scary is. And as you get time doing this, as you get time breaking down your wing and watching it come back and seeing when it wants to fly and when it wants to, cause more trouble, that's the experience you're trying to get. If you had an SIV course before your incident, I'm going to call that 1.5 years ago, right? Where you had that deflation, then, you would have gone hands up and hands down at the right times, and it would have been 1/3 of what it was.
You're probably right. However, I'll say this. I think that what happened to me could have happened to me again, even now. I don't think that thermal, I came out of a huge thermal, and that's what caused that immediate event. And falling down the side of that big thermal didn't help. So there was probably seconds where I was in and out of that. My wing was just going crazy. And then, obviously you can go back and watch the video yourself and see there's some details in there that I've completely learned from. And I would say now, as far as down, face down spiral, a little bit different situation now. I'm not going to go into a face down spiral ever again, unless I want to.
All right. Yeah. I just want it for you because I want you to be okay. I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Pay your cuss fund and might fund me.
That's a powerful argument. Yeah.
So I need to give a shout out. I promised these guys that I would give them a shout out. Thank you again, Resurgence PPG. Really appreciate what you do for the sport and what you're doing for the show. Also, Fly My PPG, Mike Cotter and your team. Appreciate your school and what you do for the show. Also, Pear Orange Products. Larry, get better, man. Sorry to hear that you wiped out, and we're praying for speedy recovery for you. Also, PPG Smoke. Ryan Roberts, appreciate you. Tri-State Skywalkers, iFly Indiana Powered Paragliding, and Paramotor Tools. Appreciate you guys. If you want to support the show, you can do that on Patreon and PayPal. If you want to keep the show going for the price of a cup of coffee, you can support the show and maybe learn something that's going to help you to stay safer and fly the long haul. We're doing this for fun. It's leisure. We don't have to be flying. And let's keep it that way. Let's keep making it more fun and have a blast. We'll keep cranking along. This seems like there's a lot of people that want to keep the show rolling. We'll keep it going for just a little bit. I'm probably going to I'm going to have to edit this one down after it's over anyways. Sucker, Woody.
Why? I don't get it.
They demonetize.
This is the best one you've done.
I don't think it's.
Let Woody do that. Let Woody edit it.
Let Woody edit it. That's a good idea.
Are we gonna
No,
put
because
chicken
Eating. And the only one I can think that I could probably grab a hold of him is Parker, and he's not on right now.
Yeah,
Parker's a big old boy. Is he like 6 foot? Parker?
he's got to be.
Yeah, he looks like he's a big old boy. And I'm
Todd's full sized. He might take me down.
Todd. Yeah, he's in reach too.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay.
But all he does is snuggle. It's true. It's so true.
We know that's going with it.
Super Dell's in the chat asking how long we're going to go, and whenever Woody's on, the show goes for 4 hours, but that's not the answer tonight.
You're welcome.
We're gonna cut this short in about 15 minutes. So your questions, this is your chance. I thought I saw something from Tom Kubat.
Yankee SC1 had a question for Butch if he'd ever landed on a building.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Is there like a good story behind that one?
Yes, I've landed on several buildings.
Oh no, I got to hear about this.
Woody, go away. I love you, but go away. No. So I've landed on the Lowe's and landed on several buildings. Me and this crazy cousin that got me in this sport, we went up to Hanging Rock, which is a state park west of here. It was kind of one of our little adventure days. We've been planning to fly out there. Went up there and had a headwind going up. Coming back, we were 3 miles from the airfield, but I had to pee so bad. I mean, like really bad. And square foot textile building over here in town, and it's got the white rock roof on it and a flat top roof. And so we're coming back, and I'm like, man, I gotta pee. So I landed on this building and thinking my cousin's just going to kind of hang out up there. Well, I look over and he's coming in too. He comes in and lands, and we look over at each other, and I'm peeing. He's turned the other way peeing, and I start kiting my wing and building the wall to get out of there. And I look over and he's walking towards me. He's done unhooked and everything. He's laughing, and I said, man, we need to get off this roof. And he said, why? I said, what do you mean? He said, who's coming up here? And he said, there's no cameras up here. I said, well, yeah, you're right. So we stood there and talked a few minutes, and
it's horrible.
And then we, of course, forward launched out of there. But yeah, there's a lot of big buildings around this area. This was a big, huge textile industry years ago, and when everything went to China, all these big buildings closed up. So there's lots of places to play, and we do a lot of cloud surfing up this way because there's not a lot of air traffic around here either. So we can go up to 10,000 feet and play in the clouds, and there's just not much air activity going on around here, and it's kind of a dried up area, to be honest. So yeah, that's happened a few times, but I'll just kind of leave it there.
Now he knocks door to door.
Tom
as a
Kubat,
sexual assaulter.
I just sent you an invite, Tom. If you want to jump on, you can right now. His question was about Resurgence PPG cross country and blowing up his prop at 3,000 feet.
Yeah, that Todd and well, all of us, I think Todd put it together. We put and I think this is what Tom's talking about. You can stop me if it's not, but when we were in Vail last year, they put a cross country together, a 3-leg cross country. And so Tom and I launched, we were going to be wing buddies. And I told Tom, I said, look, man, I come down here to fly. I don't do the GoPro thing. I don't do the comms thing. I just come down here to have a good time and relax. And he had comms and was running GPS and everything. I said, you fly, I'll be your wingman. And he said, that's cool. So 20 of us took off, and about a mile out, the other 18 guys start going off to the right and into this real low line fog and layer. And Tom's going to the left, and I'm like, why is everybody going that way and just me and Tom's going this way? And I said, well, he's my wingman. I'm gonna follow him. So we got about a mile, not quite a mile from the first waypoint, and Tom comes in to land in this man's front yard, and I'm like, he's got some engine problems or something. And I'm off the flanking his right wingtip, and so he comes in to land, and I come in to land to make sure everything's okay. And it's just mist and fog a little bit. And I walked over and took my earplugs out. I said, what's going on, man? He said, man, it's starting to rain. I said, okay, so. And he said, well, won't that mess the wing up? I said, well, actually, when the wing gets wet, it gets a little more dense and harder, and actually flies a little safer and faster. And he said, okay. So we took a leak in the guy's front yard and launched and just went right over the trees and landed at the first waypoint. Well, Yankee pulls up with some fuel and says, congratulations, you guys made it to the first waypoint. So we fuel up there, and one of the George guy that hangs out with Crazy Carl, he pulls up, and we take off there and fly to the next waypoint, which is at Shelby Airport next to Charlotte, and land there. Todd and Tom Kubat and myself and a couple other guys, I can't remember who they were, but anyway, we're in the FBO and we're talking, beautiful airport, and Tom and I were talking. I said, hey man, have you ever flown up high? And he said, well, not real high. I said, well, let's do some cloud surfing on the way back to the next waypoint. He's like, I don't know, man, it's a little bumpy. And I said, well, come on, just fly with me. We'll go up to 5,000 or 6,000 feet and just play around. So he says, okay. We take off. Tom took off first, and we're flying. I'm about maybe 500, 700, 800 feet below him. We're both pretty much full throttle, trims in, just climbing. And I got to about 4,500 feet, and man, my prop, I borrowed a prop at the airfield before we went on this cross country, and it was a repaired prop, and I'm not going to say who I got it from. But
an amateur carpenter.
Yeah. So he was giving me a heck of a deal on the prop, but of course I learned you get what you pay for. But get up to 4,500 feet, and all of a sudden my machine just starts shaking like crazy, and I'm like, what the heck? So I let out of the throttle, and sure enough, one tip of prop end tips gone. So I just spiral down and land back at Shelby. And of course, Tom didn't know what was going on because we didn't have comms. So they flew on to the next waypoint, and to my knowledge, had a good rest of the trip. But I landed and called I don't know if I called Todd. I think I called Todd, didn't I? I called you, Todd, told you I needed a ride, and so yeah. And then I get back to the airfield, and I go to the guy I got the prop from, and he's got his head down, walking towards me. And I said, "Hey, man." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, I'm sorry." I said, "Well, I'm not paying for it." He said, "No." He said, I'm going to send it back and get my money back." And I said, "Well, it's not right, of course." So yeah, that was that story. Tom may come on and tell a little something different, but add to. But yeah, that was a fun trip. But a lot of those guys ended up landing off in the fog and landing off in fields, and it got squirrely with several people because I still don't know the full story, and that Ty can probably cap on that.
Yeah, we actually launched with 11 pilots, and we finished with 3. And out of the 3 that crossed the finish line, there was only 1 that actually flew the actual route. Everybody else had a diversion or landed out and was relayed somehow, some way. So Tom Kubat was the only guy that actually made it the whole 55-mile route.
There's the hero there with his mute on.
Yeah, but some of the guys that actually.
Oh man.
Yeah, Todd. You jump in every one of
jacked
these shows. Have you considered buying a microphone, Todd?
Yeah, I need to, because
there you go.
My audio's kind of flaking right now.
You're like an audio sadist, right? Like you just punish people.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm kind of into it, but these other people might not be.
Right. Yeah, but maybe you could donate a microphone to me.
Yeah, right. It's just buy everything.
It's kind of like the new school digital free TV signal, where
I feel like I've heard this audio.
Here we go. Oh, that's kind of cool.
I need to get some of those glasses. Those are the best.
Hey guys, check it out. If you're
Magnet engineer glasses,
if you're 30 years or older, whenever you start losing it, the Clickets are the way to go. I've got 20, 30 pairs of reading glasses. They're never where I want them, but you put these on and you can lean over. They're not up under your chin or anything. But anyway, $30 on Amazon.
Love it.
They're telling me to buy stuff in the chat now. It doesn't stop. It's just
okay, Woody.
Well, I really do appreciate everybody coming on. We're going to go to the after show. Thank you again. Make sure you check out paraglidingtalk.com for all the future shows and some of the past shows that we've had. We've had some pretty cool people on this show. And if you're interested in coming and being a part of the show or being a part of the moderation part of the show, just email me in the connection part of the show.
So just send you an email and I'll get my mod powers back? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, you noticed I took away your mod powers, huh?
I know, I was joking about the chat.
I'm looking to see if it worked.
It did.
It's magnificent.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks again, guys. Everybody. Thank you.
Butch, thank you so much for coming on, man. You rock. Really appreciate your you coming on and bearing your that takes a lot of humility, and we're usually pretty brutal to anybody who just recently had an accident, talking about how and so you came in like a champ. I really appreciate it, and thanks for being so transparent with your you're not hiding nothing to. I love it, man, and that's the way we need to be. If you can take two things, humility is huge. Humility is huge in this sport. And I think if you're going to go the long haul, you're going to have to stay humble. And obviously the second one's going to be weather. If you understand the weather, especially if you're a free flight pilot, if you understand the weather, you're going to be a champ. If you don't understand, you're going to get hurt probably, or get cloud suck or something like that. But anyways, I don't want to go too long. Thank you again. David, appreciate you. Don't forget to check out Paramotor Nation. You guys get a website yet? I ask every week. Still working on it. Paramotor Nation. I don't know how you're going to find them, but if you look up Paramotor Nation on YouTube, I'm sure you can find him.
Yeah, Lori Kadak is going to be on this Sunday night.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
we have a website.
Oh, we do?
My-
Oh, here's Brandon.
Yeah, we have a website.
Why is
Oh,
my
man.
wife?
She's donating the show from your wallet.
Brandon,
It's
is
not
it
even
also up?
funny.
Well, not to you, but all of us. It's great.
Yeah, no, Robert, I disagree. It's pretty funny.
It was funny last week.
It's even funnier this week because that's
My
more
sec-
money.
My security guard back here.
So, Robert.
Yes.
Robert, Brandon's here, and he can tell you a little about the
Oh,
website. Brandon?
Yes. Please. And please plug your show because I always screw it up.
No, you don't. You do a great job, man. I
I
wouldn't be
literally-
doing it without you.
Dude, I forgot to plug your show
Seriously.
like the last 4 shows.
Slacker.
Seriously, I got to write things down. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Oh, we
Brandon's got choppy coverage. You might
yeah,
have to
no,
cover for him.
we really appreciate us. Oops. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
You might have
Brandon.
to turn off
Do you-
the visual, and it might. Then we'll have good audio. I think. Try
Brandon,
that.
do you have a website address?
Yeah, it's paramotornation.com.
There you go.
Paramotornation.com.
Nice.
Yeah.
Boom.
And
All right.
it's, the content's getting added. Garrett's doing that. He just took a new job. So he's been
We got Tom.
really kind of hard to get that done.
Garrett.
Thank you.
I wanted to say something real quick. I know it's been mentioned earlier in the episode, but I got to say this. I'm proud American, and when we were down at Bad Apples and all of that rain and the storm hit, I think it was a tornado cell personally, but it was just crazy. But to be standing there with everybody under our tent and look out and see everybody just literally trying to hold on to what they had, and to look up and look down the thoroughway and see Todd Skander coming around the corner with that flag, man, it just was something else.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
We
Oh,
spent the
man.
storms much differently.
Yeah, I was going to say, the real hero here is Woods.
Todd, Tom, I don't think you're talking into the right mic. Tap your mic. Tap your mic. Oh, you're guilty. That's not even your mic. What mic is it? Your webcam?
No, you have to go on the settings.
Good Lord, you people have no microphones. I don't understand it. It's a
Tom,
podcast, right? If there was a bicycle race and a year into it, everyone was like, do we need bicycles? How was I to know? Woody, you should tell people that they need bicycles for bicycle races. It's a podcast. It's a podcast. This is like,
Don't worry, guys. I got it from here.
Hey, Woody, don't feel bad. My microphone's so big you can't even see it.
Tom,
Woody,
did
you don't have a conniption. You all right, bud?
Did you switch it?
I think so. Does it sound better?
Yeah, that sounds good. That's a nice little microphone. I like that.
Hey, Woody, where were you during the storm?
Oh, great question.
I was with you, Todd. Why would you ask a question like that?
Well, I was busy trying to hold down a corner of my tent, so
I saw that.
I was kind of preoccupied, with getting blown away. So, can you share where you were and what you were doing?
You know those big like inflatable recliner things? You sort of run and inflate them with the air. Well, I was laying on one and I took another and made kind of a Woody sandwich out of these inflatable recliners and hid from the rain. It worked pretty well until it got really.
2 lamb zacks.
Did it try to make you go airborne?
Well, I was holding on to it and I'm like trying to, but eventually the rain got in the middle and I was the only guy staying dry until it turned into a very small lake and I was so wet.
Everybody else was drenched by that time because of the storm.
Yeah, I felt for you guys.
You have an RV or something?
Me and Mark Ryder were holding our canopy down and laying on top of PPG Gorilla's, all of his cameras and equipment, thousands of dollars. And I think at one point I looked out and I see him in his RV holding up a bear going, you guys are doing great.
I had an RV. I eventually did go to my trailer and kind of just hide out, but I was there for moral support, Todd. I feel unappreciated.
That is
no,
so
you're very
funny.
much appreciated.
Elena Dickerson really appreciated you as she was holding down her corner of the tent as well.
She did great. I was proud of her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I saw Woody the rest of that evening.
No, he was in his camper.
Yeah, air conditioned, heated. It's good stuff there.
Right.
All right, guys, we're going to catch you on the next one. We're going to after show. Thank you again for watching.
He's going to mute
Paraglidingtalk.com.
me in the after show.
I'm going to mute him right now. You guys have a good night. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah.